Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first content batching party of 2021. I hope you guys are having a really great Wednesday. My name's Megan, if we haven't met before. With me here from the Edgar team today is Maura, who is our content director, and she's going to be a wealth of knowledge if you do have questions throughout this. So right over in the chat box, there she is, popping on in, is where you can ask your questions throughout this session, as well as just letting us know who's here. One of my favorite parts of being able to do this webinar and make sure these content batching parties are fun for you guys is also to let you network with people in the Meet Edgar community. So let us know who's here. Welcome, Vanessa. Guys, if you are in a certain industry and you see someone related to your industry, say hi, collaborate, and connect. That is what is all about online these days. Now, if you've never been to a content batching party before, content batching is something that is going to take your social media strategy from being something that is just left for when you have time into a strategic place where you know exactly the amount of posts you need to create each month, exactly how many in each category. And it takes you from this scattered space of your social media marketing to a strategic place that you feel great that every post has a job to do. Every post has an intention of why it's sending out. This is far more important than anything you can do for like growth hacking the algorithm. It's just creating quality content and knowing why you're sending it out. Sometimes simple things said in that way are not exactly easy to accomplish, which is why we love to bring you ideas here in your content batching parties. So if you're not familiar with the concept of batching, I'm going to drop a worksheet into the chat there. This was also the one that was in the PS of your invite email, but if you didn't grab that, go ahead and grab that worksheet, and it's going to be a great place for you to start getting an idea of how you actually use the categories in Meet Edgar to drive your creation strategy and know the exact number of posts you want to make each and every month for each category. So today's session, I'm going to share some slides. We're going to go over how to create a really great evergreen content strategy. Then we'll do a little demo of Edgar. If you have to pop out, the session should only be about an hour, but if you have to pop out, we do run office hours every day here at Meet Edgar. I'm dropping a link in there to where you can sign up. Those are completely unstructured. I won't show up with slides or anything for those. It's just a place that you can come as much as you like, pop into that area and ask questions about the app or social media strategy. And we run those nearly daily. So keep that link if you do ever have questions there. The second thing I'll pop in here before I go ahead and get started is our playlist for onboarding. I know a lot of you did pre-submit that you're new to Edgar and just wondering where to get started. So I'll do a demo at the end just so you feel confident about how to actually use it. But that playlist on YouTube is just like 3-minute videos of each section of Edgar, a great resource as we go throughout getting this started. So the reason I want to first share some slides is because in your invite email, we talked a lot about evergreen content being the focus of making sure your messaging is clear, but not making you feel like you're on this endless content creation treadmill that you have to come up with something new every single time you want to post on social media. That is not what the people who are finding sales and converting their followers into loyal brand advocates are doing. They are focusing on a few different messages, and we're going to look at how that works today. So evergreen content is what Meet Edgar is specializing in, and that's because we believe in writing something once in a quality way and promoting it multiple times is the social media strategy to take, especially going into 2021 where people are of course scattered. We all know just because 2020 ended, we're not all over the place still. So the more focused and clear your marketing message can be, and the more you can help someone make a decision if you are the right person to buy from, the more helpful and valuable your social media feed is going to be for the people who need your product or service. So the goal of social media here and making sure that you're not afraid to repeat your messaging and to repeat what you are an expert in is truly to give someone that feeling of, hey, you know me. If you're talking to your best friend, sometimes you can remember, let's say way back, gossiping in high school, and it's like, oh, you know me, ha, 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 I forgot to do X, Y, Z. That's the feeling that you want to give your friends. Or, oh, you know me, I'm always late to the party. That's the feeling that people want to have with your brand. Oh, you know that brand, they always talk about X, Y, Z. That is what it's going to be able to give your followers a clear reason of why they're following you. And that's how you're going to attract the right people to your business. So why? It's going to be able to create less confusion. A confused mind does not buy. You need to be incredibly clear and direct about why you're sending a post out, what your message is, what you're known for. And if someone new to your feed comes to that feed, every single time they should only have to scroll through maybe 3 or 4 posts until they really do understand what you stand for, your values, and what your product or service is. Don't just add to the noise to have something show up on social media. Make sure it always relates back to your business. And this should be a great thing because it actually makes it a lot easier for you to think about the types of posts that you're going to put out. So that's what the categories in Edgar really help you do. They help you stay centered around your main pillars of content and what you want to send out. So you want to create these consistent categories that you're rotating through on a weekly basis. And this helps achieve what I was just speaking to make sure when a follower comes to your page, they always see something that tells like who your brand is, what you sell, your origin story, why you started, who you are. All of those things should be present within a first few posts that they scroll through. And that is what the categories will help you do. So your categories within Edgar are some predetermined ones, just with things that we know work well. Things like blog posts. You need to always make sure you're using social media to direct people back to a space online that you own. Things like tips. If you can give someone a tip and they can get a result from it, they're much more likely to trust you. And trust is what online sales are built upon. Things like inspirational quotes. We want to think we only purchase on logic, but we purchase on emotion. And that brand emotion you can give someone is often through a quote. It's also some of the most shareable content studies have shown online. If someone reads a quote and it really internalizes it and they say that speaks to me, they're more likely to share it to their story, to share it to their wall, bringing your brand in front of their audience. So all of those predetermined categories are great just to jumpstart your strategy. But if you want to go ahead and customize them, make sure you sit down and make your own categories that are going to really reach out and speak to your audience persona. All right, so to start really thinking about what custom categories you can create and really stick to speak on your pillar content, you want to start paying attention. You want to start seeing what people are liking on your social media feed. If you don't have a lot of data like this currently, don't be afraid to look at people in your space, in your industry, your competitors. What types of posts are their followers liking and are their followers commenting on? Doesn't take a lot of effort. I myself am not a data girl, but I can hop onto our Facebook page and scroll through for 2 minutes and see a bunch of posts and start getting an idea of the patterns of how the posts that are getting the most likes are actually what categories they're coming from, what type of posts they are. Start paying attention to that, because when people like a post, what that essentially is it's just a vote that they want to see more of that content in their feed. Whenever someone likes a post, the algorithm takes note of that and says, show this person more types of posts like this. So if you're following the bright spots and if you're paying attention to those posts that are getting more likes, that's going to guide your strategy to create more content like that. Again, you're going to be repeating similar messaging and similar types of content, and it's going to make you nervous at first if you've never tried this strategy, but it simplifies it so much so that you can just have a presence on social media that is truly speaking to the types of posts your followers want to see. The algorithm is going to work for you if you just pay attention to a few simple things when you're developing your categories and your posts. I really like to just think about this as people voting on the content that you're putting out there. It helps you keep an experimental mindset of being able to go on in there and say, you know what, today I'm going to test out sending out this post, and today I'm going to test out a new category, and then just paying attention and altering from what you find people are voting on in the algorithm. So you want to make sure that you are really landing on the strongest message possible and making sure that you're repeating these pillars of content, and you're going to increase what's working, so what's getting voted on the most, and decrease what's not working. And that's how you get a robust feed that people are excited to see the content that you're putting out there. As you go on, I want to make sure that you're remembering to avoid confusion. Your message needs to be speaking to one person, not the entirety of the social network. There are billions of people online these days on Facebook, and you're not trying to please all of them. So make sure when you're writing your posts, you sit down. Some people will go as far as taping a picture or taping a name for who their ideal audience persona is to their computer and just start typing to that one person. I promise it's going to be a lot easier to batch your content if you're thinking about just, texting that one person, having a conversation with them. And this takes the guesswork out of your brand voice. And this takes the guesswork out of who you're talking to if you can have that in your mind, which is also why batching your content, doing it all at once, is a really good strategy, because you can have that brand voice, you can have that intention in every post that you're putting out. So batching comes to this form that I love. And this is actually from Maura in one of her recent blog posts about batching that I absolutely love. The comparison of gathering your ingredients. So like if you're cooking a batch of cookies, your ingredients are flour, eggs, chocolate chips. For batching, your ingredients are your topics. So those categories, those main pillars of content. They're your visuals, your graphics, your branded visuals, your pictures of your face. Don't forget to show your face on social media, your videos, your GIFs. Then you have your copy, so your calls to action, as well as your status updates. Those are all of your ingredients. If you would like to be someone who batches to the extreme, I've known people to go out onto like stock image websites like Unsplash or Pixabay, and their batching strategy is to spend an hour collecting photos that are going to be good, spend an hour writing captions, spend an hour writing calls to action, then putting them all together as you're creating your posts in your library. So you can do the batching as one status update, go for it all at once, or even break it up into smaller sections. Batching works so well because your brain really does take about 20 minutes to onboard and offboard if you're task switching. So think about what's going to work best for you. Some people like to get inspired by photos, so they want to look into that first. Other people would rather write their captions and let the captions drive their visuals. Don't feel like you have to do it in one certain way, but find a batching strategy that works for you. And then you're going to combine them to create different related sets that you're creating so you can consistently send out a very similar message. Now, remember, you don't have to come up with 10 different messages to have 10 different status updates added to your Meet Edgar library. You can come up with 10 different visuals and use the same exact copy if you want and send those out throughout the month. This is an incredibly powerful strategy to take in order to clarify what you do, who you're for, and make sure people are not confused about if they're following you for the right reasons. So questions to start asking yourself as you start to go ahead and gather your ingredients is, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known as an expert for? Here at Meet Edgar, we want to be known as an expert in social media automation, in efficiency for small businesses, and in remote work. We've been a remote team since the very start, so we are very much going to be able to speak to that on expert status. We are very much going to be able to speak to social media automation and how to do it in an authentic way, because that's what our app is built upon. And we love talking about efficiency in small businesses, because when you automate and you have systems, we know it work, and we don't stray very far from those messages. What are your things that you want to be known as an expert in? You need to go deep and not wide. I know you've heard it before, but are you actually doing it? Have you sat down? Have you journaled about 3 things you want to be known as an expert in and not strayed from those 3 things? Make them categories in Edgar and make yourself a goal to just create content around that. Next question, what problem do you solve and how do you solve it in a unique way? Here at Meet Edgar, we solve the problem that your social media strategy is incredibly scattered and you don't have enough time to post on the 10 million social networks that are out there. What we do is we solve that in a way you can write a status update, add it to your Edgar library, set a schedule for it to be amplified out to all of the social networks at once. Our unique spin is that we have an evergreen scheduler. So it's going to repeat your content to make sure it gets in front of the most eyes and that your messaging gets out there and gets in touch with the people who need it. What is your unique spin on your topic? Our unique spin is evergreen scheduling for social media. You've got something unique and you need to make sure that you're putting that in there so people know why to choose you, and not someone else. And don't overcomplicate this. Evergreen marketing is not the thing that we came up with. It's not a trademark that only we know how to do. A lot of people know how to do it, but it's okay that that's the thing that makes our scheduling tool unique compared to others. And that's okay that we talk about it. Don't make it super complicated. If someone else is doing it, that's okay. The stories you tell, the language you use, that's what's going to make it unique. All right, so what do your clients, customers, and friends always ask you about in real life? And what do those meaningful conversations, like what topics spark those meaningful conversations in real life? Do your friends always ask you about how you stay so organized? Do your friends always ask you about how you do laundry? Do your friends always ask you about these other things? Those are going to be what sparks meaningful conversation in real life, same online. Go ahead and keep a journal of the things people ask you about and notice patterns. Those are going to be really fun tips to share. I promise you, your tips are not going to have to be something that blows the socks off of people. Most people just want an achievable thing they can take action on and get a result. Even if it's not directly related to your business, it's worth sharing on social media, a tip once in a while, so that your followers really see why they're following you and they've gained a result from you. That can skyrocket trust so much. All right, so those are just some good questions to start sparking the ideas of how you're going to stay really tight to the messaging you're creating and not have to feel like you have to come up with new things every single time, because you've sat down, you know your brand voice, you know who you're talking to, you know the conversations that you personally authentically can create meaningful conversations to in real life. Those will translate online, I promise you that. So you also want to stick to some marketing foundations. I know it can be a full-time job to try to keep up with the new social network algorithms. Every single month they're changing. Let's not try to do that. Let's keep social media super simple to the foundations of what works, and that is quality content and really relevant content in a timely manner. So that's why batching monthly is really great too, because you can start to do things that you can actually look for the holidays and the timely things that are going on and add them in as manual posts to supplement your evergreen content. So there's two ways of scheduling it, Edgar. One is going to be our evergreen weekly repeating schedule that we'll look at. The other way is you can manually schedule content for a specific day and time. When you're batching monthly, I always suggest whipping open a calendar or whipping open Google and going ahead and Googling fun holidays in this month. So fun holidays in January, it'll come up with a list of a lot of fun holidays. And those are great things to supplement your content in each and every month. Pick 2 or 3 of them, schedule them as manual posts. They're really great. I use this example a lot, but here at Meet Edgar, a great one for us would be October 8th is National Octopus Day. Our little logo is an octopus. Why would we not capitalize on that and put that out there as something fun to celebrate? Those are great social media posts for you to go ahead and manually schedule in. So what anniversaries, holidays, what special sales are you going to do? Batch those in as supplemental content and then put the categories on your Meet Edgar schedule for your evergreen content. So what post did best for you last week? I want you to go ahead and look at your social media feeds and say what post did best. Remember, best is not a one-term answer. Best could be it got the most likes. Best could be it got the most click-through rates. Best could be it got the most comments or shares. What was your goal with that post? To convert people traffic to your site or to get engagement on social media? Go ahead and think about what post worked best for you. How you're going to go ahead and make sure you're getting more out of that content is to repurpose it into 3 different lengths. Find the post that did best, the message that did best. For us, maybe it was something about batching. We'll go ahead and repurpose that into 3 different posts and add it into our Meet Edgar categories. One could be a long post, so something that tells a long story about the origin of the fact that our founder, Laura Roeder, didn't have enough time to go ahead and do her own social media marketing for her previous business. So she created this tool that would help her batch her content and automate it out. We could tell that origin story and we could share that blog post for a batching link with that origin story. It's a great behind the scenes content. It tells people how we started. These are marketing things that work really well. Next, I'm going to take that same blog post and I'm just going to get a very short pull quote from it. I'm going to copy and paste that blog post that did best. And I'm going to go ahead and get a small pull quote that can work as standalone text. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on a graphic in Canva. And I'm going to upload that as an image with the link for people to click on. And that's going to be a great way that I can reshare that same blog post that did so well in a different format. Last, I'm going to go ahead and do a medium length where I'm going ahead and sharing the headline and I'm sharing a few takeaways that people are going to get to set expectation and to build curiosity to increase the people clicking on my blog. That is one blog post that I can share in 3 different formats. It is a-okay if I share that once a week. If I go ahead and share that blog post this week, next week, and the following week, that is totally fine because we want to be known for the people who are experts in batching and experts in social media. And that is how we're known for it. You need to make sure you're reminding yourself that you see everything you post, but your followers most definitely do not. And this is a way to make sure you're being an expert. Remember too, the algorithms don't want to show people every single post from your page. So it's very unlikely that anyone is going to see all 3 of them. The algorithms are very unlikely going to do that. So don't be afraid to try this out to make sure you're putting those categories with that blog post, perhaps in the morning on Monday, in the evening on Wednesday, in the afternoon on Thursday. And that's a great way for you to make sure you're catching people who are consuming social media at different times. All right, another really, really easy thing for you to do is think about the media you're sharing. So remember when we were talking about batching, we were talking about the fact that you could actually batch your media in a way that you could just have a folder somewhere you dump in the stock photos you find. You could go out and take 5 different pictures of yourself with a friend just with your iPhone photo shoot. That is sharing a photo of you, an actual face, which we know does really well on social media. That face-to-face interaction, reminding people there is a human behind the brand and logo that's out there. You can go ahead and take 5 photos with your friend in just an iPhone photo shoot. You can share 1 photo of yourself a week, that means, on social media, and that does not take up more than half an hour of your time. I know you can find half an hour in your day to show your face on social media for your followers to connect with you more. You can also do things like go ahead and get some GIFs and get some videos. All of these different types of media, you can go ahead and use that different media, but use the same caption or use the same concept of what you're talking about. Remember, it is gathering all the pieces and then making different combinations out of the media and out of that same messaging that you want to be known as an expert in. So another marketing foundation that you want to pay attention to is you always want to restate the problem in the language that your followers use. So that is going to take a little bit of time of you spending perhaps half an hour scrolling through groups where your followers hang out, going to their own Instagram accounts and seeing what they post, what they talk about, emailing them a survey perhaps. We just emailed our list a survey, asking who they are, what they do, all of this stuff, because we want to make sure we're speaking in the language that they use. So don't be afraid to do these things. People are so kind. We forget that people want to help. So ask your followers for that help. If they're helping you create the community and create the posts, it's just going to be a better place for them to hang out. And I'm sure a lot of your followers are just dying to tell you what type of content they want. So spend some time figuring out the language that they use and really understand their problems, because if they feel like you are speaking their language and using the same exact verbs and the same exact adjectives and the same exact things that they use to describe their problem, it's going to work better. For example, something super relevant that we're trying right now with our Facebook ads is really relating them to the fact that we know people are so busy trying to homeschool their kids as all of schools aren't in session live and they're virtual still, that we're trying that messaging in our ads because we know people will relate to it and we save time for people. So if you can save time, you're able to go and our ad goes in our brand voice cheeky way saying that you'll actually be able to retake 3rd grade via Zoom. Those things are relating to what's going on right now, and they're speaking to what our followers are going through right now, but relating it back to our main concept. So spend some time really kind of figuring out what people are going through in the language that they're using and bring that into your marketing. You know, other examples are a lot of the time you'll see, social media is such a headache, or I hate social media, but I know I have to do it. Those are two really main things that we hear a lot about social media. So we want to use that language of headache or hating social media in our marketing, because people will be like, oh yeah, I've said that before. I relate to that. Spend some time gathering this. Keep a list, keep a Word doc, keep a spreadsheet of those words people are using. And that is, again, batching content that you can just go to, open up on your batching day, look through those words, and use them in your status updates. All right, so marketing foundation number 3 that we're going to go over here is always focusing on feature and benefit in the copy you're using, especially in your promotional posts. So you don't want to just go out there and talk only about your features. You want to relate them to the benefit in the person's life. Again, just another thing for helping you understand your followers more. But for example, here at Team Edgar, we would say something like, we have an evergreen category-based schedule. Okay, cool. What does that actually do for me? It means that our scheduling tool will continuously refill your queue so you have more time to spend with your family. That's going to be the benefit. So whenever you're going out there and talking about the features of your product or service, which you should be at least twice a week, talk about some sort of feature or talk about some sort of client offering you have if you're a service provider. Talk about those things and always relate it back to the benefit. Perhaps you can make a category in Edgar called like feature benefit posts. Make sure you're sharing that category a couple of times a week. Remember, when people are scrolling through your feed for the very first time, you want to make sure that one of your posts that comes up within the first few really does tell people the benefit of what you sell is. Examples of this out in the wild. So I've got a few examples here to put your heart at rest that I'm going to look at here with you before we go into the demo section of Amy Porterfield. Now, Amy runs a $10 million a year business all about creating digital courses online, and her social media follows these to a T. If you scroll through, you will notice that she just gathers a lot of these different elements and combines them in different ways and really does just rotate through the same exact types of posts. And she gets hundreds of engagements. She has built a $10 million business. So I want to make sure that you guys understand this isn't just something here at Team Edgar that we think works in the theory world, but if you put this to practice, I promise it'll not only make your social media marketing that much easier, but it will truly help you clarify to the people who need your product or service a lot faster and a lot easier for you. All right. So one of Amy's categories, I'm assuming, is inspirational quotes. Now you can see here, all of these posts were shared within the last few weeks. I didn't scroll that far back on our feed to find these examples, but what does Amy do for her quote category? She has a template where she clearly just uses a sticky note and takes a selfie in the mirror with an inspirational quote, and then writes a caption describing why she's sharing that quote. What an incredibly easy thing to do, as well as creating a consistent thing where when you see this, you know if you like this type of post to stop your scroll. You have to give these visual cues for your followers to know if they want to consume that content. And the more that you're able to repeat this, the better. So how could you do this so easily? Someone else who does something super similar to this is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. If you go onto her Instagram, every few posts, she's going to have a coffee cup. She's going to be drinking coffee, and that coffee cup is going to have a quote on it. She rotates through these inspirational quotes and does a caption regarding why she's sharing it. And it's just the same picture of her drinking it. This is just the same selfie with a different quote. You don't have to reinvent the wheel for this to be successful. So perhaps this isn't exactly what you're going to do, but if you're someone who likes to share quotes or likes to share productivity tips or something like that, rather than having to create a brand new post every time, what can you do to make sure you're gathering the ingredients and just combining them slightly differently from week to week? Another thing Amy does, you can see here, is she shares pictures of her and her dog a lot. Whenever she shares pictures of her and her dog, it is always a post about work-life balance. She is someone who runs an online company who really wants to make sure that she's giving people the opportunity to create income on their own, to create freedom in the life of their dreams, running their own business. And work-life balance is something that she really incorporates into her messaging on why you should want to create a company and how she can help you get there. Whenever I've seen a picture of her and her dog, it's either about her going in there and having a work-life balance moment or her reading a book and getting educated on it. When I see this, I know I'm going to get some lifestyle tips from her. Again, this is a repeatable thing that you can do. And it's really great to have these little sticky things about your personality, like Amy's dog here, actually show up in your feed quite often, because when people see that stuff out in the wild, it triggers their brain and it has them remember your brand. I know this sounds kind of funny, but if you saw like this Labradoodle out in the wild, it's likely you could think of Amy because she shared it consistently enough, and you know she loves dogs and you know she loves this type of dog. Other people who do this are influencers like Pat Flynn. He talks about Back to the Future a lot. And when people see something about Back to the Future in the wild, they will send him a DM about it and they'll tell them about it because they know he's such a fanatic. Other ways that you can do this are just thinking about one or two sticky points that you want to be known for that aren't necessarily having to do directly with your business, but people will relate to. One other example of this is Glossier, the makeup company. They have a very specific shade of pink. When people see like a sunset that color pink or a sweater that color pink, they'll use the hashtag like Glossier pink. How crazy is that? How did they achieve that sort of virality and that sort of brand recognition? By repeating that color in every single graphic they put out there and every single product they put out there, and not being afraid to really go all in on that one thing. So think about a couple of sticky things that you want to do, whether it's color oriented, whether it's hobby oriented, whether it's family oriented like this. And that's just a way for you to gather ingredients and make different posts out of them. The next thing Amy does, whenever she has a promotional post that is selling, it is always just a picture of her in a very smiley face here. All of these are selling her Digital Course Academy class. She has a formula where she does a photo of her, obviously here, and she does every single promotional post related to these actual photos here. Again, she's not reinventing the wheel. Every time she wants to post from her promotional category, she knows how to gather what works well. She writes the caption, she gets it out there. No drama, no fuss, combining different ways for the same message. These are all promoting the exact same thing within the exact same 2-week period. And she's not afraid to repeat that, because you never know when it's going to hit someone at the right time. Perhaps this first post that someone saw, they were standing in line at the grocery store with a fussy kid grabbing at their side. They are not going to click through on that link and purchase a digital course. But that third post that comes up, they are sitting at their computer daydreaming about getting out of their corporate job and getting into actually being able to have their own business and live that life of their dreams. They are ready to buy, and they're going to click on that link because they're at their computer and they actually have time to do it. These are the things you have to think about. Just because someone does not click on your post the first time doesn't mean they're not interested. It could just be environment or context related. And that's why it's so important to continue to repeat and give people the opportunity to opt into purchasing these things. Last here, you can see this is actually the exact same caption. If you look closely, this "have you ever dreamt that your inbox was flooded with people practically begging to buy your product?" That first line is the exact same in both these posts, and they were shared 2 days apart. Look how many reactions these got. The first one, 381. The second one there, 133. That is 133 people who did not see that first post who now gone ahead and liked that second post. So I really, really encourage you again to go ahead and make sure that you're looking into these ways, that you're not missing the opportunity to give people that little heart reaction there. This is also something you can see, this first post was just a static photo and the copy there. The second post was a live stream she did, but it was done on the same exact content. So she didn't have to go out there and research, oh, what am I going to write this blog post on? What am I going to do this live stream on? She researched one pillar piece of content, and she took that one pillar piece of content she researched and made 2 posts out of it, both super beneficial. Repeating your messaging in different formats like this is an incredibly powerful tool. The last few here are just making sure you're paying attention to that pillar messaging. So Amy's is incredibly easy to see that she talks about digital courses, she talks about email list building, and she talks about taking action now. If you go to her Instagram feed, you will see every third post is going to be a quote or an inspiration or something that is telling you to take action now. That is a messaging that you can tell is one of her pillars. She also only really talks about making sure that you're getting into these digital courses in a way that you can see she's having a conversation. Look at the language that she's using. She says things like, You, my friend, have a brilliant course idea in you. She's talking directly to you. She probably has her ideal avatar striped right up there for people to see. This other one, let's take a journey back in time 10 years ago before digital courses were cool. She's telling you the origin story of how she started and how she found success. That origin story is incredibly important because as humans, we want to orient ourselves in space and time. We want to make sure that we're really getting out there and telling people where we're from. That is one of the first questions people ask in real life. So why not put that into your marketing and then relate it back to your main why, your main message, and what you're trying to sell. Again, you can see here, the messages that she's taking is building your email list. Both of these posts were sent in the same week, and they are both talking about building your email list because that's what she wants to be known as an expert in, and she is not afraid to put it out there. So this one here, no matter how bold your dreams are, they are closer than you think, and the first step is making that bucket list come true is building an email list. The second post here says, make no mistake about it, I wouldn't be anywhere near as profitable as I am today if I hadn't focused on building my email list from the start. So this is talking about the same exact thing, just gone ahead and structured in a slightly different way. This stuff works. Take it from the experts and people who do it out there. Last little example here, again, just making sure that you're staying really true to speaking to exactly who you want to speak to. She calls out in this post over here, entrepreneurs. We need to have a heart-to-heart. If you're not an entrepreneur, you might just scroll back past that post, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to repel the people you're not right for and invite the people you are right for into it. All right, so do not overcomplicate these things. I want you to sit down and pick your pillars and think about what categories are going to be easiest to repurpose into these pillars. I want you to establish different templates. Remember, these can be templates like in Canva that you're just replacing quotes or replacing graphics. These can be templates like how Amy did with her picture with a quote on the wall, or with when she shares a picture of her and her dog. It's lifestyle advice for work-life balance. Those are all templates that you can think about and really get out there. Then block your batching day. I personally am a fan of monthly batching because that means you're only creating content 12 times a year. And each month, at the beginning of the month, you can sit down, you can look up those special holidays, you can look at your promotion category and know what's going to launch, and make sure you schedule all of those in manually, which we'll look at in a second. And then the rest of the evergreen content is just trucking away there. And I want you to block it off on your calendar and really protect it as if it's a meeting with someone else. We always will protect those meetings with someone else before we protect them with ourselves. So make sure you are treating your batching day as if it's that important of a meeting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into a demo of Meet Edgar here and show you the couple of ways of batching and scheduling and all that stuff. And then I'll jump into some questions in the chat here. So let me just share my screen here. If you are new to Edgar, Edgar does go ahead and integrate with Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. You'll know your accounts are hooked up when they look like this right over here is these little rectangles. We need a personal profile from Facebook hooked up to know you're an admin of any groups and pages, but your personal profile can't be posted to. That's against their term of service. Once you get your accounts hooked up here, these are your categories. So this is what drives your batching strategy. I want you to really sit down, remember, and think about what you want to be known for, that pillar content. I want you to sit down and really think about the different types of things your followers want to see. Again, if you're not someone who has a lot of data right now and the type of content that works well, go to your competitors, go to others in your industry, see what posts are gaining the most attention and what people are voting for there. Customize your categories. You can go ahead and click on this little pencil icon, or you can create your own categories with this Add Category button. Once you have your categories set, you can start adding content in a couple of different ways in Edgar. First, you're going to click to add new content right up here with this button. When you click to add new content, you'll notice the first thing you're going to do is amplify where this message can go. So these little checkboxes over here are given permission for where this can go. Again, here at Meet Edgar, we are all about simple, simple, simple. So the more that you can make sure your messaging here is relevant for all the social networks and amplify it out to as many as possible, the better. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin, so don't feel like you have to optimize for every single network if you're not there yet. Pick the network that you see the most engagement on or that you know your audience is on the most. Optimize the content from there and just amplify it out to have a presence on the other networks. Once you might be able to build your team more, or you might have more time, you can start tailoring messages more specific for what the networks are best for. But for now, if you're someone feeling overwhelmed with social media, pick the one network you know your audience is on, optimize for that, amplify it out to the others by just checking off multiples here. You're then going to select your category, so the type of post this is, and then you're going to write your post in this section here. I always like to point out here that if you wanted to know like what this is going to look like once it sends out to the social network, you can click on this little eyeball icon here, and that'll show you like the link preview and stuff that you're able to see. If you prefer not to have a link preview and you want to add a photo or a video from your computer, these little icons right down here will do that for you. Once you're happy with how it looks, you've got two options here. One, if this is an evergreen piece of content that you want to keep in your rotation, you can just save it to your library. If you're batching content that's holiday specific, like we were speaking to, finding those fun holidays every month, or if you have a special promo you need to go out on a specific day, this first scheduling option is what we refer to as your manually scheduled content. You can absolutely only manual schedule content for a while in Edgar if you don't feel comfortable using the evergreen schedule, and this will work totally fine. To schedule a piece of content manually, you're going to click this schedule button right here. This schedule, send, and save second option here will pop up a text box where I'm able to put in a specific date and time when I want this post to go out. If this date and time is populated, Edgar will hold this post until this date and time is reached, at which point he'll send it out to the categories over here. If this is a piece of content like a fun national holiday or something like that, under advanced settings, just make sure before you save it, you just tell Edgar to only use it once. Once he sends that out, he'll expire it and he won't send it out again. So that's going to be how you can manually schedule your content. If this is a blog post that you want to keep in a rotation of your evergreen content, rather than scheduling it with a certain date and time here, I'm going to ask you to just save it to your library. The library in Edgar is just going to be a catalog of all of your posts. Every single thing you add to the library will always remain in there. So you can always edit a post if you want. You can search for a post using these filters or this search box right up here. If you have used once posts that have expired, those will also still remain in your library. They'll just be grayed out a little bit. If you wanted to use it the following year, just go out and click edit, remove the used ones, put a new date and time, and you're good to go there. For your evergreen content that you're adding to your library, that content is just going to sit in the categories, and how it sends out is all based on when you put those categories on your schedule. So this is a 1 week view, but this week will repeat over and over again. So you do only have to set it up once. Super simple setup. You just click into where you want to send something out. You check off where you'd like this content to go. You go ahead and select a category. So what type of post this is, you click on save, and that's a time slot here now. How these work with the content items in your library is a last in, first out rotation. So when Edgar goes along here, he's going to hit this time slot. The most recent post you added to that category in your library will be the first post Edgar sends out. He's then going to take that post and put it to the end of the line in the category and move along. Next time he comes to that, he'll send the next update out, put it to the end of the line in the category and move along. And he's working his way through all of the posts you've added to that category. Once he reaches the bottom and there are no new posts, that's when he's going to start from the top again, resurfacing the older posts. Again, this is an incredibly powerful strategy if you're writing quality content to make sure that your content is getting seen by more eyes. Some easy math here. I always like to remind people to know how often things are going to repeat is all based upon the ratio of how much content you add to a category in the library versus how many times you place that category on your schedule. So let's say, for example, that you've added 10 posts to your inspirational category and you put that on your schedule here once, it'll be 10 weeks before Edgar recycles anything. If you put it on your schedule twice, it'll be 5 weeks before Edgar recycles anything. So as you're getting started, if you are brand new to Edgar, that math really guides your batching strategy in a way that you can say, create the categories you want, add 10 posts into each category for this month. So your batching this month is going to be to add 10 quotes, 10 blogs, 10 pieces of curated content. Go ahead and put each of those categories on your schedule here twice. That gives you 5 weeks, so about a month worth of fresh content consistently going out. This is going to free up your time to start creating more content, batching it into your categories, and slowly adding more time slots to the schedule based on what you're seeing your followers like from each category. Again, such a simple way to make sure that you're really paying attention to the type of content your followers like and always experimenting, but staying so consistent because we really follow brands and messaging that we like their content from. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, think about it. Like, I don't know, a brand like Coca-Cola or something isn't going out there and changing their messaging every single time. They're sending out pretty similar ads, selling that one drink, that one happiness feeling. And that's what your brand can do too if you use these categories to structure what's going on throughout your followers' day. Do they wake up in the morning and want an inspirational quote? Put that category there. Do they go to bed at night and want to read a blog post? Put your blog post category at night. Take that time to get to know what categories are working well for each of your categories on your schedule. The way you know what is sending out is going to be in your queue tab. So the queue is going to be the connection between the posts in the library and the time slots on the schedule. It'll give you the date. It'll show you the post going out. If you ever want to stop automation and you don't want anything from Edgar to go out, just pause the queue. That'll stop all the automation. If you're in the queue looking around and you're like, this post is not great for today, click the skip button. This will put it to the end of the line in the category and pull in the next button. There's a couple of really fancy things you can do with the categories as well, depending upon your goals. If you want the same exact post from the category to go out to all of your social media accounts at once, make sure when you're adding content and scheduling it, the same exact permissions for where it can send are both on the content in the library as well as the time slots on the schedule. If you do this, but you'd prefer a different post from that category to go out to each social network, in your categories tab here, you have the option to shuffle a category. That's with this double-crossed arrow right here. If you shuffle a category, when Edgar comes upon that time slot, if it's connected to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Edgar will choose a different post from that category in the library to send out to all of the accounts. No answer for what's done here is right. It's all based upon your goals. You know, for example, if your goal is to drive a lot of traffic to your new YouTube video or to your new blog post, perhaps you want that same exact post to go out to all of your networks so that everyone is being directed there. If it's a tip that you know you want to send out a different tip to each network because your audience checks all of your social media every day, maybe you'd shuffle that category. Just know that's a feature option available for you, but again, don't overcomplicate it. There is no right answer for that. One more thing I'm going to go over here is the import tab. This is really fantastic if you have a spreadsheet of content. If you ever wanted to import a spreadsheet to make your status updates, just click on this Learn More button and you'll be directed to our Help Center. You can see an example right here. The column A is just going to be your status update. Column B will be the category within Edgar you'd like it to go into. Upon uploading it, Edgar will prompt you for the account permissions of where those posts can send. This is just for text and URLs, so good use cases for this are things like if you Google a bunch of quotes or Google a bunch of icebreaker questions, stuff like that, or if you have a spreadsheet full of your blog posts already, that's a great thing to use this feature for. The second item here is our RSS feed reader. This is great if you have a blog, a podcast, a YouTube video, anything like that. Or if you like to share industry-related content, all you're going to do here is put in the URL of the blog or podcast or YouTube that you'd like to share and click on Find RSS Feed. Similar to if you're adding this content manually, you're going to go ahead and group it into what category. So if this is the Meet Edgar blog, I'm going to put it in my blog post category. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to check off where this content can go. So only to my Meet Edgar accounts. And then I have two options right up here. First is to send this content directly to my library, and second is to send it to a pending content queue. The difference here is whatever feeds that you add, Edgar is going to check them every 24 hours. If a new blog post or video has been released within that time frame, Edgar's automatically going to make a status update out of it for you in the library. He's going to pull over the title and the URL. So if this is something you like to share out, just straight up title and your blog post, sending it directly to that category in the library will make sure that post goes out the next time that category is on your schedule without you having to lift a finger. If you are sharing curated content or you like to add in a little more commentary beyond just the title of the post, pending content would probably be where you'd like it to go, because that gives you the ability to approve, reject, or edit the post before it goes into that category in the library. So the library right over here is also where the pending content queue is. That's just going to be right here. If you ever see a little number over it, that's just letting you know that's how many content items need to be approved. Nothing from pending will send out until I approve it. I can reject it, or I can edit it if I wanted to go ahead and add in anything else. Another feature that's really helpful for batching, but was specifically built for Twitter, is our variations. So variations was built because Twitter announced a term of service a couple years ago that said you cannot send the same exact tweet to the same Twitter account more than once anymore. So for this reason, you will notice that we expire all of your tweets once they're sent out. So if you want to repeat something like a blog post or an evergreen thought leadership concept on Twitter, you'll have to alter the language that you're using. Variations can absolutely be used for any of the other networks, and I highly encourage it, especially as you're batching, to add a few variations into each post so that when things are rotating through, different language is introducing the posts, and you never know what language is going to hit someone a little bit differently at that right time. So you can manually add variations by clicking to add a variation here. This will pop up a second text box that allows you to alter the language. So for example, if I'm sharing a blog post, I could go ahead and use the headline. I could go ahead and tell a story. I could ask a question. I could get a pull quote from it, and I could add in 5 different variations. That way, I know that this post can rotate through and send to Twitter and still be in compliance with their term of service. For the other networks, Edgar will just continue to rotate through all the variations, just giving it a little bit of variety and some fun spice in your feed. If you're doing this with a URL in this section here, let me grab a URL here real quick and show you. We have an auto-generate variations button. So how the auto-generate variations works is once a URL is in there, you'll see it says suggest variations. When I click to suggest variations, Edgar is going to get pull quotes from within that article here, and he's going to go ahead and write them as status updates for me. So you can see he gets 5 different pull quotes and he writes those for me here. Great time saver and a great way to set people's expectations about what they're going to read in the article once it goes out. All right, last special case here is Instagram. So Instagram is done with a push notification system. So if you're new to Edgar and you have not yet, go to our help center from the drop-down menu here and just type in Instagram, and where you can download our app will pop up for you. You're gonna add your content for Instagram in the exact same way, clicking to add content. Of course, for Instagram, you need to attach a photo or a video. Scheduling works in the exact same way. You can either manually schedule your Instagram content, or if it's evergreen, make sure you're putting your categories connected to Instagram on your weekly repeating schedule. When an Instagram post is sent to the queue and is ready to send out, Edgar will go ahead and give you a push notification. That push notification will go ahead and download the photo to your phone's camera roll. It'll download the text to your phone's clipboard. So that'll all happen once you tap that post. You'll go ahead and open Instagram. You'll be asked if you want to go ahead and post it to your story or to your feed. Choose the option, find and filter the photo. That'll be the first one on your camera roll. And then in the text box, you're going to tap with your finger, and that little paste bubble on your phone is going to come up. You'll paste the text and you'll send it out that way. Fingers crossed we'll get direct posting to Instagram soon, but in this sense, until we do that, the push notification system is the way to go, allowing you to batch your content into Meet Edgar. Once you're posting it there, my best suggestion is really to allow yourself to spend 5 to 10 minutes commenting on other people's photos in your community, in hashtags your followers hang out in, just to get your engagement rates up as a good reminder of your posts that you're sending out there. All right, so I'm going to pop back into the chat and see if there's any other questions in the last few minutes here. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, if you guys didn't have time to ask any specific product questions or anything like that, we do run office hours every day. So I'll put that right in here. Please go ahead and sign up for a session if you ever want, or you can always email support@meetedgar.com as well. And yeah, I'll go ahead and send out the replay afterwards. It'll also be on our YouTube channel after too, but I'll send an email out. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad it was helpful, Angela. Can you add text to Instagram stories? Does it appear over the photo or in a text box? Okay, so if you add text to like the text box in Edgar and you choose to post it to your story, same thing applies. When you're in your story, you're just going to be in there, and as if you were typing it manually, just tap into the text box and it'll go ahead and paste that text for you, and then you can move it around to where you want. Right here is a blog post, Finbar, that you can see on how best to schedule Instagram stories with me, Edgar. So I would go ahead and check that out. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you how the variations send out. Thank you, Maura. So variations send out last in, first out as well. So everything in Edgar is last in, first out. So for your variations, if you have, let's say, 3 variations here, what's going to happen is when this comes up, let's say this is in your blog post category. The very first time this comes up in the rotation of your posts, variation number 3 is going to send out. Edgar will have to expire it for Twitter. He does not have to expire it for the other networks. He's then going to put this whole post to the end of the line in that category. The next time this whole post is up in the rotation, Edgar will send variation number 2. He'll expire it for Twitter. He doesn't have to for the other networks. He'll put it to the end of the line in the category and move along. The next time this is up, he'll send variation number 1. He'll continue to rotate through in this fashion if this is connected to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Pinterest. For Twitter, if all of the variations are expired in a category, you will get an email. But another workflow, especially if you're batching, that I love to suggest is using these filters over here. You can go ahead and sort this by Twitter. And then this last filter that says has publishable variations, if you sort it by no, your library will show you all of the tweets that have been completely expired. If you'd like to reuse this, go ahead and click edit and you can add in more variations that way. I know that's kind of wordy to explain, but in our help center here, I'll pop this into this variations. If you scroll down here, it'll give you like a little right here, like how those posts work. If you have 3 posts in, how they rotate through. So go ahead and take a look at that as well, Diane. Can you post in the IG story and post at the same, can you post in the IG story and post at the same time? So I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, but absolutely, I do suggest, if you're posting to your feed and it's going to be relevant to share to your story, hit that little airplane icon and send that post to your story too. I see no problem at all doing that because some people do just consume stories. Some people do just consume feed stuff. So if it's a great post, you want to get out in both places, go for it. Also, no one's going to be mad if they see it in your story and on your feed as they're scrolling. So yeah, if you post something on your feed, go ahead and send it to your story as well. That's a great way to get more attention onto your content. Awesome. Oh, you're so welcome, Diane. I am going to just scroll back a couple here. It looks like Maura was a rock star. Okay, so time zones, Finbar. So your time zone is going to be in one time zone. You can change that in your settings. So the best way to post to different time zones is just doing the math. So if you're in an Eastern time zone, your calendar is in an Eastern time zone, and you want to make sure something goes out at noon Pacific, just go ahead and subtract 3 hours and put the time slot on for, 9 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern would send out at noon Pacific. So there's no way to kind of delineate the schedule for different time zones. You just have to do the math that way. Awesome. So I hope you guys are going to go ahead and take some action on making sure you're batching your content, and let us know how it goes. Keep the conversation going. Maura does run our social feeds with Tia, and they are always looking to hear how people are doing with Edgar and always looking to hear what content you like. We like to take our own advice here and make sure we're really capitalizing on what the community wants to see. So say hi to us on social. We're at Meet Edgar, and we'd love to hear from you. And awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. This was really, really great. If you have if you have more questions, Helen, if you have more questions, please sign up for an office hours session. I would love to see you in there. Like I said, those sessions are usually like 1 to 3 people, so they can be really tailored to make sure your questions are getting answered. Or email support@meetedgar.com. Myself and Christina will be in the inbox the rest of the afternoon, and we'd love to hear from you. We do these content batching parties monthly, so come back next month for more tips, or let us know any feedback on what else you'd like to see from Edgar. Thanks so much for joining today, guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.